Hello, and thanks for stopping by. There are certain London addresses that sound positively delicious. Milk Street, Honey Lane, Sugarloaf Walk. But others, well, they sound utterly revolting. And in this video, I'd like to take you on a tour of these dirty little corners. For as squalid as they may sound, there's still plenty of intriguing history to be discovered amongst them. I've ranked the addresses we're about to see, from those that are merely shabby to those that evoke real revulsion, so be warned, it gets a lot grungier as we go along. And of course, if there are any similar examples you can think of, whether they be in London or any other town or city, then please do be sure to let me know in the comments. Anyway, on that note, hold your nose and we'll begin. We'll start our journey on the Isle of Dogs, where, towards the southern end of the peninsula, there's an area called Mudchute, giving us Mudchute Park and Farm, and Mudchute Docklands Light Railway Station, which has to be the muckiest name on the network. The name Mudchute is pretty much literal. In the 19th century, the nearby Millwall dock required regular dredging, so the thick silt was pumped out, sent through a pipe, i.e. a chute, and dumped here, at this very spot. Just imagine it for a moment, the smell of wet Thames silt baking in the summer sun, a vast mound of river mud piled up high beside the docks. Unsurprisingly, local residents weren't too happy. They feared that the mud churned out from the docks was the cause of much disease. Fortunately, things were a lot more pleasant here nowadays. The old mud heap has since been transformed into the aforementioned Mudchute Farm and Park, which offers a peaceful green space. And I must say, the concept of something that's merely muddy is mild compared to what we'll be seeing later. Grub is a funny term. Although it can be used to describe food, pub grub for example, it's also a word that refers to insect larvae, which is enough to put you off of your meal, isn't it? The word grub is linked to an old Germanic root connected with digging and hollows, and related to the Dutch term grobben, meaning to dig or scrabble about. This association with digging and ditches is thought to be behind the name Grub Street, or as it was known in the 13th century, Grub Street, a now largely lost lane in the city of London, which ran alongside the trench used for dumping rubbish. In its day, Grub Street was noted for being home to many hack writers, who were drawn to the area by its cheap rents, the prices no doubt being low due to the proximity of the stinking ditch. The writers who lived here were known for churning out what we today would call tabloid-style writing, pamphlets, short histories, ballads and so on. As Samuel Johnson sneered in the 18th century, any mean production is called Grub Street. Grub Street was later renamed Milton Street in honour of a local builder, and that name survives today, although much of the street's original path was wiped out during the Blitz, and has since been covered over by the Barbican estate. Considering Grub Street took its name from a rubbish ditch, you'd think Gutter Lane, which connects Gresham Street to Cheapside, was named after a similar feature. In this case though, gutter has nothing to do with dealing with waste. It is in fact a corruption of Godrune, the name of a wealthy medieval merchant, and in centuries past, this road was known as Godrune Lane. Nevertheless, the name gutter isn't exactly glamorous. In fact, it's said that, in the 1970s, the American firm Coopers & Lybrand, who were once based here, asked the City of London Corporation if they could change the name to Cooper's Lane. Naturally, this request was refused. Arguably the most blatant name on this list, Dirty Lane runs along and below one of Southwark's numerous railway viaducts, and forms part of the complex known as the Borough Yards. In its current guise, Dirty Lane is brand spanking new. It opened just a few years ago, and despite its unsavoury name, you'll find it's home to a variety of fancy shops. The name itself isn't new though. In the 1700s, there was indeed a dirty lane in this area. It was sited just southeast of where the current incarnation lies, and the name was revived for this swish alley by the developers, who I'm assuming had a sense of humour. The original Dirty Lane was likely named so due to its grubby nature. Things around here were a bit rough and ready in those days. Back then, there was also a foul lane, a dead man's place, and a naked boy yard. Similar to Grub Street, which we saw earlier, Houndsditch does indeed refer to a former ditch, a trench that ran like a moat outside the old London Wall. This engraving from 1872 by the great French illustrator Gustave Doré shows just how grim life was here during the Victorian era. As for the hounds part of the name, well, there are 3 theories as to how that came about, 2 of which are rather grim. First, it's said that this was once a popular spot for dumping dead dogs. Something which, being a great lover of dogs myself, I really hope isn't true. Secondly, it's said that, as the trench was used for dumping rubbish, hungry dogs would congregate here to scavenge for scraps of rotting food. A gruesome legend connected to this arose in the 11th century, when, in the year 1017, King Canute had a traitor named Edrix de Rona put to death. Before his execution, this unfortunate fellow was dragged through the streets and tortured with burning before being beheaded. Once dead, Edric's body parts were tossed over London Wall and into the Houndsditch. Yet, so treacherous was his reputation, even the starving dogs refused to touch him. The third theory, and the cleanest, relating to the naming of Houndsditch, can be found in Arnold's Chronicle of 1502, in which it said the name came about as kennels for hunting dogs were once sited near here. If you found Houndsditch grim, well, I'm afraid there's worse to come. It's a myth that pigs are dirty. They are in fact clean animals, who only appear mucky as they have to roll around in mud to cool down. Being kept in cramped pens doesn't help either. Unfortunately for our porcine friends, the term pigsty has become a byword for something that's filthy and untidy, and in Greenwich you'll find a Pigsty Alley, a steep narrow path that runs between Winforton Street and Maidenstone Hill. That said though, this area isn't known to have been associated with pig farming, which makes the name somewhat curious. It's possible that, like Dirty Lane, the alley was notoriously filthy, and so had the name bestowed upon it by locals. Another idea is that a resident living in one of the houses backed onto the alley may have kept pigs in their backyard, but it seems the true origin of Pigsty Alley has been lost to time. On a similar note, London has a Hog Lane Stairs too. They're located right beside the Thames in Woolwich, just across from the Woolwich Ferry, and lurking above the Woolwich Foot Tunnel. Gore is a rather disturbing word, one that conjures up thoughts of blood and horror films. It may come as some surprise then to hear that there's a Kensington Gore, an oddly shaped road with 3 branches that runs past the Albert Memorial and around either side of the Royal Albert Hall. On the main stretch of Kensington Gore, you'll find a statue of Dr. David Livingstone, along with this lovely old mile marker. When used in this context, gore isn't as gruesome as it sounds, for in Old English, it actually refers to a triangular-shaped piece of land. That said, the Old English definition of the phrase does still have some violent connotations, for the triangular meaning originally described the shape of a spear, and could therefore be used to mean stab as well. Just east of Kensington Gore, running along the southern edge of Hyde Park, is a long tree-lined path known as Rotten Row. Originally, Rotten Row was designed as a bridleway, and was first laid out about 330 years ago. Back then, Hyde Park was a rather remote place, and being a favourite haunt of highwaymen, it was dangerous to travel through here at night. To combat the high levels of crime, King William III commissioned this route and had the sandy track illuminated by 300 oil lamps, thus making it one of England's very first lit highways. As for the name rotten, well, when used here, it doesn't mean something that's stinking or decaying. You see, when the bridleway first came into use in the 1690s, it went by a French name, the Route du Roi, the King's Highway, as it provided a direct connection to Kensington Palace. Over time though, Route du Roi morphed into Rotten Row, most likely due to Londoners butchering the French pronunciation. Easily the grimmest address on this list, and one which you won't find printed on any maps. Deadman's Hole refers to an isolated, white-tiled alcove nestled beneath the northern end of Tower Bridge. As with Mudchute, Deadman's Hole is pretty much literal, for this space, believe it or not, was once a mortuary, incorporated into the design of the bridge as a place where dead bodies, fished out of the River Thames, could be temporarily held. Those Victorians thought of everything, didn't they? Sadly, this mortuary for dealing with river deaths was indeed necessary. Even today, people continue to perish in the Thames. In 2023 alone, 23 such deaths were recorded. Today, these tragic cases are handled by the Met's Marine Policing Unit, who are based not too far from here in Wapping. I wonder how many of the millions of tourists who walk across Tower Bridge each year realise such a grisly place lurks beneath their feet. Clerkenwell's Passing Alley, which provides a shortcut between St John Street and St John's Lane, is a rather creepy place, and at first glance, you may be inclined to assume that passing refers to the fact that there's only enough room for two people to squeeze past each other in this cramped space. The name Passing is in fact a subtle change though, for until the 1790s, this wee place was known as Pissing Alley, for reasons which I'm sure you can guess. In medieval times, as this map shows, London had a pissing lane too, although that charmingly named place is now long lost beneath Cannon Street. Speaking of peeing where you're not supposed to, you can still see these curious Victorian urine deflectors on Clifford's Inn Passage, just off of Fleet Street. Attempt to relieve yourself here at your peril, for if you do, your shoes and trousers will end up splashed. Similar to Passing Alley, Sherborne Lane, which runs off of King William Street in the heart of London's financial district, may sound fairly inoffensive at first. Like Passing Alley though, the name has shifted over time. The Bourne part, meaning a small stream, has remained much the same, but as for Sher, well, that was once shite. Yep, in the medieval period, this was known as Shiteburne Lane, which tells you almost everything you need to know, for an open sewer once flowed straight through this very spot. Nice. The Savoy is, by far, one of the most luxurious places in London, so it's rather surprising then that, around the western edge of the hotel, there runs a path that's colloquially known as Farting Lane. This street's official name is in fact Carting Lane, but the farting moniker comes from this grand Victorian lamp, which, designed by the inventor Joseph Webb, is powered by methane, drawn from the sewers below. The official name for this unusual bit of street furniture is the sewer gas destructor lamp, and it continues to burn what's politely referred to as biogas to this very day, both day and night. Mercifully, it doesn't give off any bad odours though, so feel free to breathe easy. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look at London's filthiest street names, and as always, I'd love to hear your own thoughts. Which of these did you find the most disgusting? And are there any similar examples, both in London and other cities, that you can think of? If so, please be sure to let me know in the comments. If you haven't yet subscribed to Robslondon, then I'd appreciate it very much if you could please consider doing so, as this, along with clicking the bell icon to receive notifications, will ensure that you don't miss out whenever I publish a new video. Plus of course, it'd be wonderful to have you along. If you're feeling extra generous, you can also support my work with a tip, via either my Ko-fi account, which I'll link below, or the YouTube thanks button, which appears as a heart icon beneath the video. Any such financial donations are of course greatly appreciated, and they really do help go towards creating content. Anyway, on that note, thanks again for watching friends. Stay well, and please be sure to stay tuned.